I want to show progress on building a simple live IDE for Drawware. So I've created a main.py Python file that has very few lines of code. The big deal is this handler. And it does two things by doing a sub-process run, essentially. It runs doth to JSON, which grabs the drawing and turns it into a JSON file, and then returns the return code here. And then it runs the program after it's been converted to JSON. We see that down here. So we connect to the very, very basic IDE written in HTML. The HTML sends us pairs of strings in JSON format, a name of a field, and content of that field. And then once we get a new line in a particular field that I call input, it then resets everything, prints to the debug screen something, then transpiles the program, then interprets the program, and then it dumps the result back to the HTML program. And it dumps it by sending stuff to output, sending stuff to a probe A, probe B, and probe C location. There is also an error output. I haven't hooked it up yet. And I've got all sorts of print statements in here to help me debug what's going on. So I'll put that away for the moment, and we'll bring up the infantile IDE. So my debug screen is down here. The Drawware is here. The IDE is here. So I just manually tiled them. They're basically three separate programs. And if I type in the name of the Drawware program, which is test.draw.io, we see down here that it's, the debugs are telling me stuff got sent to the Python program that's running on a WebSocket. And it goes all the way into that. And then I type into the input field, hello world, bang. And as soon as I hit new line, the Python program will cause the Drawware to be compiled to JSON. It'll run the Drawware, and then it will take this out and print it out here. And we don't have any probes, errors, or anything else happening at the time. So that's what we'll see. So I'm going to hit new line, and there it is. The output is hello world in the output screen. Let's review what we just saw. It's all fairly simple. Over here, we've got the HTML file, which is very, very basic. It has two input fields and a bunch of output fields, output errors, and a bunch of probes. And I hard code their names. I'm on an Apple Mini M3, and it seems to be fast enough to run three programs in what looks like real time. So it's running this browser in HTML, it's running draw.io, and it's running Python script down here. Draw.io side has a bunch of options that I've turned off for now. And at the moment, I can change the program and then file save it, and it saves it to a mess of XML. Let's just look at that. It's actually GraphML, which is a variant of XML, and most of the information here is not needed by the compiler and interpreter. It's all graphical information. We run it through a very simple piece of code. This particular version of it happens to be written in Odin, but it could be written in all sorts of other things, including OMJS, called DOS to JSON. Drawings as syntax to JSON. In fact, it's an XML parser, and we parse it down to and save it in program test.draw.io.json. Save it down to something very simple like this. This thing basically says it came from the file test.draw.io. At the moment, there's only one tab. We can have more than one tab. And on this tab, there's some children. In this case, there's only one, and it's the part called echo, and it's been assigned a randomly or automatically, it's been assigned a number 7. And then there's so that's describing this part here. And then there's a description of all the connections. There's actually 1, 2, 3 connections on this diagram. The first connection is here to there. And it basically says that it's a downward connection. And it's the source of the connection is the main diagram, which happens to be number 0. And its name is nothing at the moment. And the source port is this thing over here, and it has the empty string as its name. And that's what we see here, source port, there to there. Whoops, no. And that's what we see here. It's source port, nothing. And the target port in this particular case is the echo component and its input port called nothing, which is this one over here. And that's that connection that we just saw here. That connection is this. And then the other 2 connections are shown here and here. These 2 connections, basically from output to output and from error to error. And that's it.